Lilia? Put the sigil on him. Lilia! Damn it, they got me again. The worst part is the sigil was right there on all of the promotional tarot cards and I did not make that connection. It was staring me right in the face. I feel like such a fool. No change from usual. Speaking of Lilia, Patti LuPone in a head wrap. Served. Ah yes, Agatha All Along, the show that answers your questions with more questions. All I have to say is wow. This episode was very revealing. Some of the clues and connections in it change absolutely everything going forward. Oh, we're in it now, Stevie Nicks. We're in it now. I do not want to go back in the closet. Maybe one of the greatest lines we've heard from the MCU yet. And on a personal level, the most relatable. Eddie's reaction to Billy wanting to meet a guy from Reddit. That's real. I mean, we all use Reddit, but that's never something you should admit to. No one wants to be known as the guy from Reddit. All I'm saying is when it's Catherine Hahn doing the manspreading, suddenly it's hot and acceptable. Even Swamp Agatha has me by the ovaries. Catherine Hahn's Emmy-worthy performance this episode. She has the range. And a hose spray for a gun. Speaking of Agatha, the lore they dropped about her in this episode went crazy. She was on the Titanic. Did she sink the Titanic just to get Rio's attention? She was the inspiration for Jolene. Now the theories about Jolene being a love letter from Dolly Parton to another woman kind of make sense. I mean, Jolene is clearly for the ladies. She's not trying to steal no man, baby. We all knew a Ralph Boner cameo was inevitable in this show. The writers' room are obsessed with this dude. If Ralph Boner has 0 fans, the writers' room are deceased. So this was Billy's episode and it was pretty cool, but I have to admit I have grown emotionally attached to all of the other characters and I do miss them when they're not on screen. They are my emotional support coven and I love them. But I do agree with what Jack said about this episode in her recent interview, and that jumping out of the rhythm of the road and into a rewind gave this episode a fresh feel. And as always, I am glued to the screen from start to finish, no matter what. This show is my own personal brand of catnip. Speaking of Billy, I love how much his sexuality was normalised and simply just another aspect of his character this episode. That kind of representation is really refreshing. We love to see it. And now that there's been a kiss between Billy and Eddie, maybe there should be one between Agatha and Rio too. I just think it would add to the story. It's not for me, it's for the story. You know, for the story. Jack, please let them kiss. I need it. Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video I'm just going to be giving you my thoughts and theories on episode 6 of Agatha All Along. The revelations, the layers, the details, the performances, the visuals and the artistry were all incredible this episode. In fact, you could say that this entire episode was just to die for. So the first thing I want to discuss is Lilia's tent, because it is brimming with potential clues and connections. Outside of Lilia's tent, we can see a sign which says Astral Mapmaker. And this is very interesting because the word astral means relating to the stars or outer space. But it can also mean relating to a non-physical universe with mysterious forces in it that some people believe to exist. The latter meaning seems like an apt description of the Witch's Road. And a map maker is a person who makes maps, funnily enough. Is this a hint that someone has designed the Witch's Road and is in control of it? And since the poster is blue, is that person Wiccan, since blue is his signature colour? The other suggestion is that Lilia is somehow potentially connected to the creation of the road or has some influence on it herself, since the poster was outside her tent. From what we know of Lilia so far, this doesn't seem like a strong theory, but at the same time, nothing is off the table at this point in the show. The only issue with the whole Wiccan is behind the road theory, and there are multiple clues in this episode hinting that this is the case, is that we know he's on the road to find his brother. So it makes no sense for him to create some kind of fake road or illusion of a road where there wouldn't be any chance of him finding his brother at the end. It could be that he conjured up the road as part of a wider plan to get his brother back, back another way. Or it could be that the road exists, but he has had a significant influence on it since the road changes for the coven. Both of which seem like more plausible theories to me, but like I said, nothing is off the table at this point in the show. Inside the tent, we can see the Wheel of Fortune tarot card, which coincidentally features a devil-like figure that is reminiscent of you-know-who. If this is a purposeful nod, does that mean that Mephisto is connected to Billy or Lilia in some way? Or is it a nod that he's connected to the creation of the road in some way? But that aside, the Wheel of Fortune card is significant here because it represents the turning wheel and that life is in a constant state of change, where luck can turn from good to bad and vice versa at any moment. This cycle shows why it's so important to appreciate the good moments in your life and make the most of them whilst you can, because in a flash they could be gone. This connects to what Lilia says to Billy when she tells him to enjoy the now, it's the only thing that's certain. And secondly, the Wheel of Fortune is also known as the Wheel of Karma. What you send out, the universe will send back your way. This is one explanation for why Lilia put a sigil on Billy to protect him. It could be related to her own benefit or protection later down the road, especially since in Lilia's crystal ball we can see the vision of William Maximoff appear. So Lilia was well aware of who Billy was to become and the power he would hold. Lilia also says the Tower reversed to Billy in his reading. The Tower is a tarot card, and when it's reversed it suggests significant personal transformation and upheaval, which makes sense within the context of what Billy Kaplan is about to experience with the car crash and having his body taken over. It's a nice artistic touch that both the Tower and the Wheel of Fortune cards are shown in reverse in the crystal ball, as it recontextualizes the meaning of those cards and is a visual clue that Billy is about to experience significant upheaval and that his luck is about to take a turn for the worst. Alongside this, there are flowers inside the tent, which look to me as though they are a similar colour to the one Rio holds. I could be wrong about this because we don't exactly get a clear shot of them, but that's what it looks like to me. And furthermore, there's a floral pattern on the tablecloth. Both of these could be just a coincidence, or they could be another clue that Billy has a connection to Rio somehow. The blue theme, which we know is the colour associated with Wiccan, is incredibly heavy both outside and inside the tent. And interestingly, Lilia's head wrap is a combination of blue and yellow, with yellow being Lilia's signature colour. This is potentially a visual clue that their storylines or characters are merged or connected in some way. And what's more, the tassels on Lilia's head wrap are blue, green and purple. We know that green is Rio's colour and purple is Agatha's colour, and this again could be a visual clue that Billy shares a connection to both of these characters. Interestingly, we also see the word magic with a K upon the leaflet for Billy's bar mitzvah, and that spelling of magic is used to describe the occult, and it's spelled with a K to differentiate it from entertainment-based or stage magic. Magic with a K is often used to refer to practices that involve the manipulation of unseen energies or forces in order to bring about desired changes, and this leads me to wonder if this is yet another clue that the Witch's Road is a manifestation of Wiccan's intentions or similar. Another point of interest in the bar mitzvah is the rabbit decorations, because as we know, rabbits have a connection to Nicholas Scratch, and similar to the floral visuals in Lilia's tent, this could be another clue that Billy is somehow connected to Agatha or even Nicholas in some way. This connection between Billy, Agatha and Rio is driving me crazy because they keep hinting at it every single episode, and I can't work out what it means. We know they're not his parents. Surely this boy does not have 3 mothers. So my best guess at this point is it's because Billy ties into Agatha and Rio's storyline or relationship in some way. I'm thinking it might end up being a Nicholas 2.0 situation. Billy Kaplan's death, and I'm assuming he's dead because we hear his heart stop. There's a heart stopper joke in there somewhere. Connects to Joe Locke's credit slide, which says near death in Westview. However, since it seems the crash really did take place in Eastview, this leads me to 2 questions. Does near death in Westview mean that Rio was near Billy when he visited Agatha in Westview and he perhaps wasn't aware of her presence? Or does it mean that towards the end of the show that he's going going to be near death in Westview, since we can see that some of the characters do end up back in Westview, but Billy is nowhere to be seen. And this latter question also connects to the conversation Billy has with Ralph Boner, which we'll get to in a bit. At first, I thought Billy and Rio may have been working together, but now I think she's aware of who he is and either is looking out for Agatha or wants Billy Kaplan's body due to her wanting to enforce the laws of nature. If we go back to episode 1 where Agatha and Rio were drinking beers, the moment that Rio reminds Agatha about the locket/hidden evidence can be interpreted as her being aware that Billy is upstairs stealing it and giving Agatha a nudge. This could be way off the mark, but it's worth mentioning as a possibility. Inside Billy Kaplan's room, we can see a poster of the 1606 Italian art piece, Description of the Land of Cocaine, where whoever works the least earns the most, by Remondini. The fact that the printmakers for this piece are Italian creates a further connection between Lilia and Billy. And the Land of Cocaine is a mythical world of self-indulgence and epic idleness, with Remondini's version showcasing magical visions. This could also be yet another hint that Billy or Lilia are involved in creating or influencing the Witch's Road somehow. Next to that poster, we can also see a poster of Houdini, who was a famous illusionist and stunt performer. Interestingly, at the beginning of his career as a magician, Houdini was regarded as lacking the skills needed to achieve excellence in the craft. But of course, he went on to become incredibly famous and successful in his career, which sounds parallel to Billy's journey from amateur witch who no one takes seriously to all-powerful witch. We can also see a poster of Alice in Wonderland, which could simply be a nod to Billy finding himself in an absurd and unpredictable world. But there's also wider messaging and implications in this poster too. Alice in Wonderland is about the importance of imagination as a powerful tool for problem solving, not getting stuck in the past, how the journey is the destination, and most significantly of all, the importance of embracing your true self. Alice struggles with the expectations and constraints placed on her by society, and as she navigates the strange and unpredictable world of Wonderland, she learns to embrace her unique qualities and strengths. All of this is incredibly relevant, not just to Billy, but to the rest of the witches in the coven too. Billy's room also features a Wizard of Oz poster, and we've discussed the Wizard of Oz themes and connections in this show many a time, so I won't go over it again, but it's significant that this poster and also figures are in Billy's room, as if we go back to the theory that William has some influence on the road or how it appears, it's clear that the Wizard of Oz, alongside almost all of the other posters in this room, served as a source of inspiration for him. There's also the whole friend of Dorothy and Billy being gay connection, which is a fruity inside joke there. Blink and you'll miss it, but Billy's room also features a national park poster, and the last place we saw a national park poster was in Agatha's trial, which I remember thinking felt slightly out of place at the time, but this connection explains it. And this is yet another clue that Wiccan has some influence on the road or the trials. It's also interesting to note that Billy's room goes from a blue colour scheme to a black colour scheme, and this reflects the change in his character, his connection to death, and his inner darkness. Similar to Billy Kaplan's room, the posters in Billy Maximoff's room give us a lot of potential clues about his character and story. We can see Billy is a fan of Lorna Wu, and her record takes us back to Alice's trial in episode 4, where interestingly we saw the exact same Fleetwood Mac poster that Billy has in his room. And this is perhaps the biggest clue that the road or the trials are connected to his influence or mind-bending magic in some way. Billy also has a poster of the craft, and this is actually related to what Jack said in an interview about the original concept for the show. She said, "So I wish I was more organised with this story. It's all kind of a blur. It started with, I had this notion of like a goth teenager or a group of goth teenagers, and I knew that Agatha would be trapped in the spell. And just like the sort of craft of it, I kept imagining this goth teenager with candles doing some kind of like a rudimentary spell. And I think the original idea was like, and then he accidentally gets Agatha out from under this spell." I'm glad she didn't stay with that original concept, but hey, it's a fun connection nonetheless. The Saw poster Billy has is also interesting. It could just be a part of Billy's goth horror theme. But Saw is about the jigsaw killer, who tests his victims' will to live by putting them through deadly games, where they must inflict great physical pain upon themselves to survive. This sounds very similar to how the trials on the road work, except the pain seems to be more emotional and trauma-based. So again, this is yet another clue that Wiccan may have had a hand in influencing the road. I will briefly touch upon the Ralph Boner scene because in his conversation with Billy, he tells Billy that if he keeps sniffing around Agatha, he'll end up buried in that yard, which takes us back to not only the foreshadowing of Sharon saying, "Bury me in that kitchen" in episode 3, which led to her death, but it again takes us back to the near death in Westview credit slide. We know from the mid-season trailer that they end up back in Westview, but in the clips we've seen, there's no sign of Billy there, and this makes me wonder if Ralph Boner's warning was foreshadowing that Billy will end up near death, or in fact buried in Agatha's yard. I mean, clearly the death wouldn't be permanent, but still. The next point of interest is Eddie texting Billy the black heart emoji, because this suggests that Billy may be the black heart that was on the list of witches that Lilia created in episode 2. It also makes sense that Lilia didn't write his actual name down, since the sigil she put on him works on herself as well. And this means that Billy is officially a part of the coven. But what's confusing to me about this is that Billy clearly doesn't represent the earth element, which presumably was needed. Whereas even though Rio is allegedly some form of death, you can at least see how she's also connected to nature and the earth element as well. So Rio being the black heart makes way more sense in that regard. Jack, explain yourself. I could be wrong, but it seems very strange that they didn't actually have a green witch with them when they opened up the road. And this brings us right back to the theory that it was actually Rio disguised as Sharon in this scene. And yes, I will die on this hill. Either way, the black heart clearly has an association with death at this point, and this creates a further link between Billy and Rio. I would assume the nature of that connection is being purposefully kept from us due to it being a huge plot point, and that's why Rio was A, absent from the flashbacks in episode 6, and B, why Aubrey's credit slide was missing at the end of this episode as well. In fact, whilst we're on the subject of Aubrey's credit slide, it's interesting that it features spiders because in several traditions the spider is a symbol of the mother and the feminine divine. This would track with both Rio's witch elements and the theory that she's Nicholas's other mother. Spiders are also often associated with themes of balance, interconnectedness, and cycles of life, which also tracks with what we know about Rio's character so far. And as the weaver of the web, the spider also symbolizes the spirit of creation and also entrapment due to the creative way they catch their prey. And this could be related to what Rio is doing to Agatha, especially if she wants her dead for U-Haul purposes but is unable to kill her herself. But back to Rio missing from the flashbacks. It could be that Rio was a figment of Agatha's imagination as part of her crime drama fantasy, and that Rio didn't actually appear until she turned up to fight Agatha. But personally, I think it's more likely she was actually there from the beginning, because all of the people that Agatha interacted with in her detective fantasy were real people, and she was also still under Wanda's spell when Rio first appeared, presumably meaning she would have had no memory of Rio, which would be needed in order to imagine her. There is also a visual clue hinting that Rio was actually present in the interrogation scene at least. For example, the Macbeth and the Three Witches painting on Agatha's wall are a hint that there are 3 witches present in that scene. Interestingly, we can also see a shot of the unbinding spell inside Wiccan's spell book, which opens up a lot of new theories for us. The book reads that the spell requires a personal item, but that the item shouldn't be one that shares energy with an additional person, or one belonging to many. The locket that Billy uses for the spell has presumably Nikki's hair inside, and we know it also belonged to at least one other person, Agatha's mother. So in that sense, it suggested that the locket may have corrupted the spell in some way, and that could explain why Agatha doesn't have her powers back, and various other strange happenings on the Witch's Road too. Moving on to the ending, as I understand it, it seems Agatha was able to grab a root or vine and physically pull herself out of the swamp, whereas Lilia and Jen were not able to do that. I'm assuming we'll get an explanation as to why this is in the next episode, or more realistically, we'll be left with more questions about it. I think what's most interesting about the ending is that it highlights Agatha's adaptability and her skill in reading and manipulating people. For example, Agatha senses Billy's moral superiority and she guilts him about Lilia and Jen in order to bring him down to the same level as her, and once he's there, she then reassures him and builds him back up from her own tenacious standpoint, framing herself as on his side and as a mentor of sorts. And all the while she's doing this, she's taking in information about him and prodding at his potential vulnerable spots too. Better watch out, Billy boy. In the line, you saw an opportunity, an empty vessel, and you moved in, so you broke the rules, big deal. Jack has said that the rules that Agatha is referring to are the rules of nature. And this again adds weight to the theory that Rio may want to collect Billy Kaplan's body due to her wanting to enforce the natural life cycle and restore the balance. However, I think what's most interesting about the ending is that we know this show is less about black and white good and evil characters and more about exploring complex morally grey characters. But when it comes to Billy, it reads less that he's morally grey and more as though he almost has a split personality, two very different sides, or even two different people inside of him almost. But because A, he's been putting on an act up until this point, and B, he also has a twin brother, and the twin thing really obscures any potential clues about Billy having two sides to him or two souls inside of him. He's a very hard character to work out. And finally, we can see that the yellow lighting is still present at the end of the episode, which likely indicates Lilia's trial is next. Yellow is not the only colour to symbolise air in Wicca, but it is the main one. And as people pointed out in my last video, it's also Lilia's signature colour, so it pretty much has to be her trial next. I was both wrong and right about my predictions for this episode in my last video. I was wrong in that I thought the yellow indicated that this episode was going to include something to do with cowardice and deceit, but I was right in that I thought this episode was going to focus on something else other than Lilia's trial. And depending on what unfolds in the future, it could turn out that this episode may have actually revolved around deceit somewhat. We'll see. All I know for sure is that Lilia's trial looks epic. I am so ridiculously excited for these costumes and literally everything else about this episode. This is probably the episode that I've been looking forward to the most. I have been seated for 84 years. Overall, episode 6 was a very interesting episode which has opened up a whole new world of possibilities and theories for us. I think things are about to get very intense over the next couple of episodes. Catherine Hahn, I'm scared. Please come and pick me up. Okay guys, let me know your thoughts and theories on episode 6 down in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!